365 Nation, welcome to episode number 88 of the 365 Pro Wrestling Podcast. Today, our guest, former Pure Wrestling Champion, former PWA Elite Champion, former BC Champion. He was the first ever BIPW Heavyweight Champion. We're talking Nolan James. And I won't be talking to him. We have Manicat talking to him. She's going to be doing our hosting for a lot of these podcasts coming up. We also have Thomas Chow, who's going to sit in and do some interviews as well. So sit back, enjoy us every Monday night right here.
Hey, 365 fans, it's Manicat here, and I'm doing my first interview with Nolan James and the 88th 365 Pro Wrestling Podcast. Thanks for being on today, Nolan James. How are you?
I'm great. I'm excited.
That's great. That's great. I'm great. I'm doing great too, and I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, how have you been doing since everything's been happening here in the world today? You know, you had that little bit of a sandwich break, as I like to say it, between the breaks where you had a couple matches out in Campbell River, BC. But now there's, once again, nothing much. So how have you been doing wrestling wise?
I've been decent. It was really nice to actually get some wrestling going on because I was going crazy because the last, I think, almost 7 years of my life have been about going to shows, being at wrestling shows, and looking forward to that next event. And when it all stopped, it was a little nuts and I didn't know what to do with myself. So it was nice to get back out there and do a little bit. And now I'm going crazy again.
Yeah, it is nice to have a hobby, to get out and be able to do something. And, wrestling, something that you love. Now you can't do it. It's kind of a downer for you, I bet, right?
It's true. And wrestling is my life. It's not my hobby. I don't know what to do with myself other than wrestling. So
Yeah. So, what's one thing you wish you had known before you got into the world of pro wrestling?
Man, that's a tough question because there's so much. And I just wish I would have known. I always knew it was going to be fun, but I didn't know it was going to be this great and how much of a community there is in wrestling and how great the people are.
Yeah, it's a real family. It is. I've noticed that since I've gotten in, it's a real bond being in a wrestling community, as you say. Yeah.
Before I started wrestling, I had friends and stuff, but it seemed like everything I did was always with those friends. If I was making new friends, they were friends of those friends, whatever. So this was the first time in my life that I actually went out on my own and met new people and did my own thing. So it was really cool.
Yeah, I bet it can be a little bit scary at first, though, right?
It was a little strange, but I felt everyone accepted me right away. I felt like I fit in. The first night that I had hung out with everybody, I was like, these are my people. Where have you been my whole life?
Yeah, that's such a great feeling too, right? So do you have any big failures in wrestling? And if you did you learn anything from them?
I feel like there's tons of small failures. There's nothing really that big. I actually knew this question was coming, so I thought about it, and I thought probably my biggest failure in wrestling was before I actually started wrestling and I was in the business. It was the night before the VIPW 1 year anniversary. I was in Campbell River at the gym, and I was just doing my thing, blah, 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 and this older gentleman was in there doing his thing too, and I kept looking at him like, this guy, he kind of looks like Roddy Piper. I'm but no, it can't be. We're in Campbell River. There's no whatever. And then I'm on my phone. I'm looking at pictures of him. Comparing. And I'm that's totally him. So eventually, I just gave him his space. And he had come over and was like, "Hey, are you still using this machine?" I'm like, "No." And then I started talking to him. I'm like, "What? How long are you on the island for?" And he was like, a busted him kind of deal. And he was,
you caught me.
And it was really great. And he asked me like, what are you doing here? What brings you to the gym? And I'm like, oh, I'm trying to be a pro wrestler, or I'm trying to be a wrestler. And he's like, a pro wrestler? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh shit. And he like did a little walk around. He got excited. And then we just started talking wrestling, and he started showing me things to do to work out and how to breathe. And he's like, this breathing will help you in the ring, the way that you breathe when you work out. And he's having me counting. He's having me do all these stretches. And he ended up spending 4 hours with me, just hanging out, working out, talking wrestling.
Wow. That's so amazing.
Yeah, it was mind blowing. And he was just the nicest guy. And it was like he was in my brain. He would ask me questions that people wouldn't normally ask. He's like, why do you feel this way? And I was like, yeah, I feel that way. Like, quit trying to tear me apart. Like, and eventually he got down to the point where he was like, I'm looking for someone to like be my assistant and like come to Hollywood with me, do this, do that. It's like, you could do that. And I'm like, yeah, I could. He's like, well, I'm leaving tomorrow. Wow. Like, you want to come with me? And I'm like, I can't come with you. Like, I didn't have a passport. There was nothing, right?
Yeah.
So that's always
that would have been the craziest experience.
Yeah, and that's after that we stayed in contact until he passed away. So like we'd talk, he'd send me messages just to motivate me, stuff like that. And that's probably like my biggest failure. And I learned that like you got to be ready for anything, right? Like
yes,
I don't know where I'd be right now if I would have went home with Roddy Piper that day, you know.
Wow, that would have been an amazing experience. You know, who knows what kind of a road you would have taken that way. You know, sometimes there's those forks in the road that you get, and you know, so it depends on your decisions. And you made the decision, but you know, you're still in the pro wrestling world, and you're still doing great. Yeah. And
I'm happy.
You know, that's a positive. That's a great thing to have. So coming out of all that, what is your greatest accomplishment in pro wrestling?
I'd like to say that my greatest accomplishment was being the Pure Wrestling champion and being the first ever VIPW champion. But honestly, my greatest accomplishment is just actually being a wrestler and being able to do what I love, and also to be that person that I'm the one. I feel like I'm like one of the people on the island that is trusted in any situation by the promoters. I can get put in a certain match to get a certain job done, and I really enjoy that. I also like Eddie can take off to Ontario, and he knows that me and Haviko are there to look after things. And it blows my mind to think that when I first started and didn't know anything, and now I'm kind of that person who can do anything.
Yeah, that is a great accomplishment. You know, it's probably an amazing thing that you had to experience too. And it's like, has it helped you out in the whole ring aspect of being in wrestling too, being trusted?
I think, well, I'd say yes. It helps with my confidence, and it just like in ring, it just kind of help. Like I said, it's cool that I'm trusted to do certain things, so I kind of have that confidence that like when I get in a situation, I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool, I can deal with this.
Yeah, that's a great thing. That's definitely a great thing to have. So with having all these experiences, do you have any advice for some aspiring up and coming wrestlers?
My biggest piece of advice has always been just do it, go for it. Because there's so many people that you'll meet and they want to get into it, and they're like, oh, well, I got to get into shape first. I got to do this. And like, yes, getting into shape is a big deal, but it's easier to learn what you need to do to get in shape and like start reaching for that goal as you're also trying to get into shape. Because that was my issue when I was younger. So I had my first match when I was 29. So like I started pretty late. So when I was younger, I always made excuses for myself, and like I had some anxiety issues. So I just always like, I want to do this, but no. So like I had actually talked to somebody years ago, and he was like, oh yeah, here's my email address. I'll get you in touch with someone. I'm like, oh, I got to like get in shape first. And like I did that exactly all the time. And so my biggest advice to anyone that wants to be a pro wrestler is start going to wrestling shows when they start happening again, and get
whenever
yourself
that
out
is.
there, start meeting people, start helping out on the shows, do anything you can to get involved in that community, and things will happen from there.
Well, that's great advice. Okay, so who are 3 people that were influential in your wrestling career?
Is this like out of people like top wrestlers that I watched on TV, or just all together? Because
Like, I guess your top 3 that really helped you become who you are, like in the wrestling world.
okay, so like for watching wrestling growing up, I've like that inspired me, and like I want to do this. Had Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, and Christian. They were all just characters that uh that I related to, and like I really enjoyed the stuff they did. And Chris Benoit had an intensity that no one else did. But in like my wrestling career, as I started and I learned like this is a completely different thing, I was the sound guy. So I would sit there every show and just sit at the table and watch the matches. And it was mostly Eddie Osborne and Tony Baroni that really showed me what wrestling is, from the fact that it's not just a bunch of crazy moves. There's all these like little extra things. And Rhea Von Slasher is also someone who's always kept me motivated and always pushed me, said little things to me, and like she kind of take me aside when I was the sound guy, saying like, hey, you're doing good at this and doing good at that. And as I started wrestling, she would start I don't know, giving me little pointers of like, oh, you should have done this and that. And so yeah, I'd say Baroni, Osborne, and Rhea Von Slasher.
That's great. That's great. I think that's a great group of people to be inspired by. So, you know, I like that list of your watched and for your in the wrestling community. That's great. I really like that. So I know everyone would want to know this. What's something in the pro wrestling world that's a myth?
Oh. I feel like the one thing that's a myth in pro wrestling to a lot of people that I talk to that don't know much is it actually hurts. Like a lot of people think that we just know what we're doing and it's all good. And like I definitely know what I'm doing, so it doesn't hurt as much, but some things really suck.
Yeah. I could imagine. They look like they hurt. Like some of the things when you guys land, I'm like, that, my God, how is he gonna get up? And you guys get up from it, and I'm like, they gotta be like superheroes or something.
Well, it's a beautiful thing. It doesn't seem to matter what happens. You just keep going.
Exactly. So that's a good thing. That's definitely a good thing to keep thinking in your head, you know, you just keep going, you know, just brush it off. You're good. And just worry about it after the match.
Sure.
Yeah. What makes Nolan James different from everyone in the 365 pro wrestling world?
That's a hard question. I'm always so, if people ask me this, then I never know how to answer it. And I don't know if it's just because like it's a lack of confidence. I don't want to be cocky, but
be a little cocky. It's okay.
Yeah, I really don't know. I feel like if I'm between the other people in 365, I have a different look. I'm a little bit taller than everybody else, but I feel like everyone on the roster tries so hard, so I could never be like, oh, I stand out because I work harder or anything like that, because everyone works so hard.
Yeah, they do. They do work very hard. It's, you know, when I started coming into 365, I was so amazed as to how hard everybody works to put a good show together.
It's true. And that's what I love about like we were talking about earlier, the community of it and how everyone works. So it's like Eddie Osborne always says, it's not like, because like with him with 365, he always says like, it's not me, it's us, because without everybody doing their own little bit, you can't put on this entire show.
Exactly. Yeah, it really is. It's a community involvement. So, I heard that you trained with Eddie, and I'm sure I've also heard that he teaches you the basics. So, when you go in front of a crowd and you learn some real lessons and stuff like that, different things that, people can't teach you. What are some of the things that you learned when you started wrestling in front of a crowd?
I feel like the biggest thing I learned wrestling in front of a crowd, which I still am learning to this day because little things click, is how to respond to that crowd, to like when they're at a certain point, to go on to the next step, if that makes sense.
Yes, like pick up on their energy, kind of like their vibes.
Exactly. There's like a certain point where the crowd will keep climbing and climbing, and eventually they'll get to this certain point where they're not going to go any higher. So you need to pull off your next whatever before they start going down again, or else you're riding a bumpy roller coaster.
Yeah. And some people, and like a lot of people go and watch those matches because they know in those matches they're going to get those high energies, those high vibes, and you've got to really return on that. So that's something, that's a great thing to learn, but I guess you can't really learn that until you're in front of a crowd.
And it's really cool, like in the last couple of years, when I started as a baby face, so as I was just out there like, yeah, like making people cheer, smiling. And then when I turned heel, I really started to pick up even more, because as a heel, I'm more in control. I'm the one that's saying, like, we're moving on to this next spot. We're going to do this, going to do that. So I really learned how to feel the crowd.
Yeah, it is. That's a great thing to, learn in front of the crowd and be able to do that. But I guess it takes time too, right?
It does. Like I said, I'm always learning. Something clicks pretty much every match.
Yeah, everything's different, right? Different opponent, different crowds. It all just kind of, it all depends. So what does your family think of you becoming a pro wrestler? Like, have their thoughts changed since when you started to, like, even before the COVID and after or during, like, I guess it's not after yet, but during, we're still going through it. So what do they think?
I feel like my mom has just accepted it now. Like, she wasn't very happy about it. She's like, oh, I don't want you to get hurt. Like, I'm proud of you, but couldn't you just train people? Like, she's trying to always find a way out, but I feel like she's accepted it. And my dad actually really enjoyed it. My dad passed away 2 years ago, but before that, he would come to the PWA shows, and he never had an interest in wrestling, like, as I was growing up, but he always encouraged me because he knew that I liked it. So he'd always bring me home videos, and like, he was always kind of like reading the websites, trying to find little things for me, clipping out newspaper clips and stuff. And so when he would come, he actually really enjoyed it. And it was always really cool to me to like peek out in the curtain when other people were wrestling and just like see the smile on his face when certain things were happening. So that was cool. And my sister and my niece loves it. My sister's cool with it. But family accepts it.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. It probably helps you too, because if somebody in your family didn't like it as much, I would assume that it would make you maybe not like it as much, or maybe turn away from it, depending on who it is and stuff. So it's great that everybody likes it.
I love it too much that no one can stop me. The only person that holds me back is me.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good thing too. That's a good thing to live by too. So during your training, I heard that you were basically living at the school, the wrestling school, and on the weekends there'd be like out of towners coming in and staying and stuff like that. Right. So who was the messiest or the loudest? Like, did anybody snore really loud and like keep you awake, or did people have like different schedules and stuff? Like,
There's definitely there's all kinds of things. I don't even know if I want to like put people out there, but so for sleeping, going to sleep, people who snore, that doesn't bother me. I actually don't mind like a constant noise as long as it's pretty constant. If it's, people are like talking every once in a while, that might get annoying. But
yeah.
So for snoring, I'd say Eddie Osborne is the loudest snorer in the world, but he can snore all night and like go over there and I'll be fine with it. But actually, I'm lying. The loudest snorer in the world is someone who never really stayed at the school too often, but he'd ride in a car and you'd have to like shout over his snoring, and that's Judas Icarus. And you never expect that. He's not the and he doesn't have like the biggest body to be making all these noises.
He's very tiny. I wouldn't expect that at all either.
You'll be in the car, so you start talking a little bit louder because he's snoring so loud, and the louder you talk, the louder he snores. Like Haviko, the first time it happened, he thought he was faking it, that he was ribbing us. He's like, "This isn't real, is it?" And I'm like, "No, this is what he does."
That's so funny. That's so crazy. I would never expect that. Never at all.
And another, you asked about like people, whatever their routines or whatever. Brett Matthews would come to the school on the weekends, and we would always have a lot of fun on the weekends as well. We would train, and then we would go out and we'd have a good time, and it was really good for bonding with each other and really getting to know each other. And so we'd stay up a little too late, and then we would go to bed early in the morning, and it'd be like an hour after you go to sleep, Brett's alarm would go off because normally he's got to go to work. Like maybe he gets up at 5 a.m. I don't know, but his alarm goes off and it's making noise. He pushes the snooze button. You back to sleep. Like 7 minutes later, it goes off again, and it goes off again, and like eventually he'll turn it off. But it's like those few hours where you're just trying to get into the deep sleep that his alarm is going off every few minutes, and then eventually he will wake up. There was one morning where it was just like, it was one of those mornings where it was just a really long night, and like I just want to keep sleeping because we need to train in like an hour or two. His alarm goes off, he wakes up. I'm sleeping on a mat on the floor and he's sleeping in the ring, and he's on his phone, and like you can hear the video he's watching on his phone, and like you're kind of like dozing off again. Then he's just like ha 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 ha, ha. Like so loud, and I'm like, please stop. And yeah, I think Brett, like back at that time, it was so like, it was just like, no, please, I just want to sleep. But now when I look back at it, it's so comical, and I'm glad I had that in my life.
Yeah, you got that experience, right?
So,
you should have went and got some like earplugs or something.
I would have headphones usually, but they fall out.
I get that. That makes sense, I guess, if you're rolling around and stuff. So, if you could have dinner with any 3 pro wrestlers, past or present, who would they be and why? And also, what would you have for dinner?
Oh, what would I have? Oh, no. Okay, well, the way that the world is right now, if I could have dinner with any 3 pro wrestlers, it would be Eddie Osborne, Haviko, and Rhea Von Slasher, because I just don't get to see them enough. And like, sorry, Jordie Taylor and Creator, but I only got to pick 3, so you guys got cut. But
it's okay, they can come next time.
Out of everybody, but I'm still gonna pick Eddie, Haviko, and Rhea. They're my top.
Okay. Yeah.
Out of everybody, I feel like The Undertaker would be one. Vince McMahon would be one. He counts as a wrestler, right? He had matches. And Jericho, because I love Jericho. I think he's great, and I love his podcast. I just feel like if he is the person that he portrays in his podcast and everywhere else, I'm like, we could be friends. Like that'd be a good.
Me too.
I don't know. I feel like if I went to dinner with those guys, they'd also be paying for it. So I'd have to get something like steak and lobster with a side of bacon. is you gotta have bacon.
Yeah. Would you put the bacon on your steak or just have it separate?
No, I'd eat it like fries, you know.
Just have like bacon fries or something. Make
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
That sounds like a pretty kick-ass dinner. And some pretty kick-ass guests.
Yeah. I'm excited. Can this actually happen? Can you make this happen?
I don't know if I could put that together, but you know, you can always try maybe after COVID.
All right.
So, since you know everything's going on and stuff in the world right now, what's really motivating you to keep going in the wrestling world?
With everything that's going on, really just my motivation is that hope that things are going to happen, and you know, keep studying, keep trying to come up with new ideas. So when I do come back, I have something new. When we came back the first time in August, I sort of changed my gimmick a little bit. So, and I just did it on the whim of like, it's something I've always wanted to do. I needed a change, and I was slowly going in that direction. So, so it just we were suddenly wrestling again. I figured I just want to come back like with a clean slate, be a little different, and I hadn't fully figured that out yet. I'm always just going to be me. I'm always going to be Nolan when I'm out there. So I'm trying to figure out the twist to put on it. So it is nice to have this time to do some research and learn a little more and just get ready for when I can get back out there.
Yeah, that's a great thing to do. You know, there's not much else really to do, but it's a great thing so that way when you get back in the ring, you really kind of know what to work on since you've been researching it and everything, and you'll have a good head going in there.
It's true.
Yeah.
I just can't wait.
So what's your goals for 2021 in the pro wrestling world?
I just, like, other than just getting back out there and doing it, I feel my goals are to continue on what I was doing, trying to work for more promotions than just the promotions on the island, where I feel in the last few years I have been getting opportunities in other places. So once we are able to travel again, I really just want to travel and work with new people and learn from new people, and also help new people who are starting out, who I can give them. It's funny in wrestling, someone can tell you something a million times, but and you kind of get it, but sometimes it doesn't click until a certain person says it a certain way, or it happens in the ring with a certain person, and like even if you mess that portion up and you feel terrible about it, you go to the back and that person's like, oh, you should have done this, you should have done that, and you learn. So I always enjoy that part of wrestling new people, that that I can learn from new people, and I can also teach new people, because when I started, everyone was so great to me and they really helped me out. They really helped me understand things, and it still just blows my mind that I'm in a position now where like people will after the show, I'll be talking to someone and they'll be like, oh, remember that time you told me this? Well, I've been doing this since then. And like, whoa, like I did that to you? Like it blows my mind that I can help people too.
Yeah, it is. It is a great thing to be able to help people and get them to learn new things and them to teach you new things and stuff. And I'm sure, you know, with everything that's going on, it's so much harder to do that. So I guess once everything comes back, you know, you'll be able to do that again and it'll be great. I'm excited for everything to come back. So hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. Fingers crossed.
My camera's not in the right position. I don't know what way to go.
Oh.
Is it bad luck to cross both fingers? I was told that as a child, but like both hands, is that bad luck? Should I only do one?
I don't know. I cross my fingers and my toes.
Oh, I don't know if I could do that.
Well, it's quadruple the luck. So during this interview today, Is there any question you would ask yourself at all? If you had the opportunity to ask a question to yourself?
I don't think so. I'd like to ask myself something really ridiculous, but I don't have anything on my mind right now.
All right. We can always come back to that later if you think of something.
I'm really asking myself right now how you're able to cross your toes, and I'm sitting here like kind of twiddling my toes trying to figure it out.
It's not that hard. It's not that hard. Just you could teach your toes, I guess, if you could do it physically, and then just over time you just do it, I guess.
Okay, well, next time we do this, I'm going to prove to you that I can cross my toes. I'm going to work on this.
Okay, mark that as a goal for 2021.
It's a goal.
That's a good goal. Just keep trying. So, what's something interesting about yourself, or something that people don't know about yourself that you could let them know today?
I feel like everyone knows everything about me, or maybe they know nothing about me, and that's where I get really confused.
What about an interesting fact, like something that most people wouldn't think anything of it?
I don't know. I think it's sometimes we've talked about it on the podcast before and stuff, but that I play guitar and that I'm obsessed with music. I feel like some people might not get that about me, especially because of my look. With the long hair and like the spikes and stuff. I like a whole range of music, like all kinds of music, from like jazz and swing music, classical music, obviously metal and punk rock, rap music. I'm so all over the place that you just don't know what today is going to bring when it comes to music.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing, as long as you don't like country.
I don't really. If there wasn't singing in country, I would really actually enjoy it, because like the guitar's cool. Like I like that there's a fiddle. Like it's all cool. But when they're like, "I'm a dog, dad," like I just can't handle it.
I get that. I get that.
Who likes country. It's like I think it's kind of cool, but I can't do it. It drives me crazy.
It's okay. My sister and my best friend love country, and it's just they know that about me. So.
One time I was at the gym, and it was at a community center, and they have like they used to have just like a little stereo in the gym where you could listen to the radio. And that was cool. The radio, that's fine. But they were all like high tech, and they wired the whole building, like the ice arena, everything was all programmed to this one stereo so they could pick the music. And they played country music in the gym. So I was like I forgot my headphones, and I'm working out, and it was like really like beautiful, like violins and ladies singing. And I was like, this isn't working for me. When I was done, like, could you not play country music in the gym? And the lady was offended. She was like, well, what else would you want me to play? Anything other than that. Like, even if it was like upbeat country, it would have been nice, but it was way too mellow.
Yeah. Oh, that sucks. Definitely sucks. Terrible. So now that we've gone over music, what about your favorite movie? Is it wrestling related at all, or is it just a like certain genre of do you have a certain genre that you like, or?
I really I have a hard time being asked my favorite anything, because just like music, I'm all over the place. I would say if I'm just gonna pick a favorite movie off the top of my head, I'd say me and my best friend growing up, his name's Kyle, that's what we would do. We'd watch movies on weekends, and we were obsessed with the movie Basketball, if you know what that is, with the creators of South Park. That movie was like it was like our Bible. We could quote everything from it. And I still to this day I don't watch it very often, so it's nice to throw it back on and see. And just remember, it's funny when you watch things that you've seen a million times and you kind of forget, and then you end up laughing before the funny part even happens because you're like, oh, here it comes, here it comes. And movie genres, I really like, I guess, horror movies or like suspense movies. I like movies that'll like kind of like, get me shaking a little bit, and it's hard to get me like scared from a movie because I just, especially being a wrestler and knowing how entertainment works, you kind of expect things to happen. You kind of know what's going to happen. So I always enjoy movies, especially ones about like ghosts and stuff like that are like somewhat realistic.
Yeah. Yeah. It's more like based on a true story kind of thing.
True.
Yeah. Yeah. So, do you have a favorite WrestleMania at all? I know you don't have a favorite music or movie.
I could answer the WrestleMania one. My favorite WrestleMania is WrestleMania 17. And that's just because that was when that one happened, it was kind of where I was at like the peak of like I had gotten into wrestling a year or two before, and I was just becoming a bigger and bigger fan as time went on. And when that one happened, I was just like, WrestleMania! I was so pumped for it. And there's things like there was that TLC match in it with the Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian, which is like one of the craziest matches ever. And it's still, I can still watch it to this day and like pick up on little things that I didn't notice. And like, the main event was Stone Cold, and The Rock was great with Stone Cold joining with Vince McMahon. And I'm like, what? But I wasn't I was really happy. It's great. I can watch that one over and over. And it's cool. Tony Schiavone has a podcast where he does watch-alongs, and he has a watch-along for WrestleMania 17. And that was the point in time when WCW had just been bought by WWF, so he was out of a job.
Okay.
There was some WCW guys in the building kind of deal, but he's pretty much like the company that he had worked for forever was now out of business, and there was only one company. So he said like he never really watched it when it happened. So that was kind of his first time watching WrestleMania 17 on the podcast, and it was pretty fun to listen to. I enjoyed the watch-alongs with wrestling pay-per-views.
Yeah, they are a lot of fun. You get a lot of other insight too that you didn't know about. So my favorite WrestleMania is 19. That's mine.
I was gonna add. I enjoy WrestleMania 19. That was also a big one for me, and that one was cool because it was the closest to home for us here in BC.
I was in Washington, Seattle, Washington. Yeah,
just a drive away, and I know a few people who actually went to it.
No way.
Yeah,
that's so cool. I would have loved to have gone, but I wasn't around wrestling back then, so
right.
But yeah, it would have been a lot of fun. It was one of my favorite ones. With like Hogan and Vince McMahon. That fight was pretty good.
Right, and then that's the one where Roddy Piper like showed up out of nowhere, right? Unexpected.
I think so. Yeah. So, and the Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar fight was awesome. I liked that fight. That was a great fight. Oh my God. I watched that one a lot. So the Jericho and Shawn Michaels and stuff.
Oh yeah, of course. I forgot about that. WrestleMania 19 always stands out to me because Limp Bizkit was there, and Limp Bizkit was like, if you were a wrestling fan in the early 2000s, like you had to love Limp Bizkit. That's all it was.
Oh yeah.
And there's a point on that pay-per-view. Oh well, actually, there's 2 points. The Undertaker, I'm pretty sure it's WrestleMania 19. The Undertaker does his entrance with Limp Bizkit doing the Rollin' song, but
where it's a badass.
Yeah, but it starts off with Limp Bizkit comes out. My favorite is that Tony Chimmel announces it as the WWF's favorite wrestling or favorite band in the entire world, Limp Bizkit. And then Limp Bizkit comes out and they're doing their thing, and they have like these girls dancing dressed as Fred Durst, and then there's like little kids like break dancing and stuff, and it's like I guess it was cool. Then the Undertaker came out on his motorcycle, which was like a total shift from children dancing to like now the badass comes out, and it blows my mind. I'm just watching. It's so corny. I love it.
Yeah. But that's a great thing about wrestling, you know, like there's so many things to love about it, you know, and even if it is corny, you still love it, right? Because it's still awesome.
True.
So, so we've kind of gotten to our last question today. And it's not a big one, so don't worry. Just, you know, everybody out in the 365 Nation, Pro Wrestling Nation, if they want to get a hold of you online, how can they do that?
Everything. I'm under Nolan James Wrestles on Instagram and Facebook. That's probably the best way. I am on Twitter, but I don't really use it that much. That one's Nolan J Wrestles because they wouldn't let me put in my whole thing. But yeah, Nolan James Wrestles. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, which I really need to get caught up on the YouTube. So if you can message me and those other things, maybe you want to try and motivate me to put some new matches on my YouTube because it's all old stuff. And please don't judge me as a wrestler by what's on my YouTube because
we won't judge you. We won't judge you. Don't worry about that. But yes, definitely get up to date on that so people can see you and be able to contact you and see all your new content.
And you can always find me here on Twitch. Usually, if there's things going on, I'm hanging out. So like, I really enjoy watching the Azzy show on weekday mornings, where Azriel plays underground hip hop and talks about wrestling. I'll try my best to be in there, hanging out, talking with people, and when 365 does things, I enjoy this whole Twitch community right now.
Yeah, it is great. It is a good thing to have. You know, since we can't be with each other, we're still able to socialize. So that's great. It's good for our mental health.
It's true.
So yes. Anyways, if anybody wants to also find more content throughout the whole video down below, there has been all of our social media and our 365prowrestling.com accounts. You can see more content there. You could probably see this coming up soon. And I just want to thank you so much, Nolan, for coming on and doing my first interview. I had so much fun. It was a blast.
Oh, me too. Thank you. That's been a great time.
It has been.
I look
Thank
forward
you so
to the
much.
next one.
Yes, we'll have to have you back on.